You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Hello, and welcome into this week's edition of Mizzou. That's who. I'm Tucker Franklin, joined as always by Gabe DeArmond and Maggie Johnson. Busy week of Mizzou athletics. A busy week we only have one basketball game to talk about, but there was plenty of things that happened elsewhere in the Mizzou sphere. Gabe, before we get into it, how are you doing this week?
I'm good. I feel like we were just here. I feel like we hit this not very long ago. But
yeah, 100%. That's what happens, especially when you have now the SEC has gone to these Tuesday, Saturday sets. They're going to go back to the Wednesday, Saturday next week. But this is how the Big 12 feels, I guess. Maggie, how are you doing?
I'm good. I feel also like we were just here, but I'm sure our listeners are very happy to hear us again. They might not be.
Especially when this is the one where we tell them exactly what's happened with Isaiah Mosley.
Yeah, stay tuned. We're going to give you exactly what's going on.
You got to stay tuned.
Listen to the whole podcast.
Gotta stick around to the very end of the podcast to figure that one out. I do want to start this show by giving some well-deserved shout-outs to some other sports that don't usually get highlighted very much, First, I think this is the most recent one as we were recording this podcast on Monday. Mizzou baseball. A huge win over TCU. I saw a lot of fans were running their mouths of other respected baseball teams once Mizzou was announced to be in this college baseball showdown of like, okay, who's going to take turns beating up on Missouri? Listen, Mizzou ended up going 2-1, beating TCU and Texas, number 16 TCU, by the way. They ended up beating them, and good showing for the baseball Tigers. Sam Horn made his debut, so good stuff all around.
As soon as I saw on Twitter that Sam Horn was in the game and had thrown a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, I texted a few of my friends and I said, I don't think fans will freak out about this at all. I mean, like, he literally is already being drafted by the major leagues, has future's not in football. Jake Garcia's the starter.
Yep.
Moving on. I mean, he looked good, though. 3 innings. 3 scoreless innings.
Oh my goodness!
Not a lot of dudes can throw 98.
Nope.
You can't throw 98, dude?
No. I used to do the bullpen at Worlds of Fun and try to win a free hat. If it hit 98, there's a typo.
Glitch. Well, all my Twitter group chat's been talking about is the quarterback situation today, and I've just been staying out of it because I don't want any part of it. It's just like a never-ending conversation that's going on. So. Good for Sam Horn. He might be the quarterback in the fall. He might not. I don't know.
He will. I would be willing to bet a good amount of money he will be at football practice next Tuesday. If he's not, then we have a story.
We will know shortly because Mizzou spring game's like next weekend. For when,
seriously though.
No, March the 8th, I think is what it is. 18th. That's right. I knew there was an 8 in there somewhere. But also, another huge win for a Missouri program. Missouri Gymnastics, not only did they knock off number 5 Auburn in front of a absolutely packed-out house, they're rolling. Setting a record, actually, in gymnastics attendance. I believe I saw Dennis Gates was there. Eli Drinkwitz tweeted out that he was there. Everyone is buzzing about this Missouri Gymnastics team. Jocelyn Moore hit a perfect 10 on the vault. So big ups to Missouri Gymnastics for getting that upset.
That might be Missouri's best chance at a national title. That program. I mean, they were 5th last year, which also was like 3rd in the SEC. The SEC is stupid in gymnastics, but I mean, they're really good, and seems like they're starting to get some people. I mean, I think as many people were there probably to see the Olympic gold medalists last night as anything, but 6,000 people for gymnastics, that's a pretty big deal.
And the perfect 10 was awesome. I don't know if you saw, but Sports Center tweeted it out. But I mean, you've got Jocelyn Moore doing 10s. You got Sienna Schreiber who's killing it, basically in the all around. Hannah McCreary. I mean, they have so many good athletes. It's insane, and it's really, really fun to watch. I had a great time watching it, especially when they're going against people like Sunita Lee, who is obviously the reigning all-around champion, Olympic all-around champion. And to get to see her at Hearn Center it's just really, really cool. And everybody in Columbia thought so too.
Mizzou does have a few meets left. They've got Arkansas and Alabama coming up on the schedule, and then they'll have a little, I don't know what they call it, but I know they call them tries in wrestling. I don't know if it's the same, but there's 4 teams here.
That would likely be a quad in that case.
There we go. Yep,
guess.
got it.
The math would at least check.
I forgot the word before. I forgot
Try plus one.
Yeah, they have SEMO North Carolina and Ball State on March the 10th, but then SEC Championships on the 18th of March, same day as the spring game. Fun fact. And April 1st and 2nd, that is the regionals. So, yeah, mark your calendars. Lots of big events coming up there. Mizzou softball also scored a huge upset. This was a couple of weeks ago against number 8 Northwestern. Maybe it feels like a couple of weeks ago, might not have been, but they did win the FIU Invitational that tournament as well. So they're off to a hot start as well. Listen, the spring sports pulling through here early on.
Also out
too.
Yeah, that's my next thing.
They did, just upset. Yeah, Iowa State. Our O'Toole, Keegan O'Toole, he lost to one of the best guys in the entire country, but I think that they'll see each other again in a later meet. I would also
in softball, Alex Honnold was the SEC Player of the Week. She hit 643, scored 9 runs, 10 RBIs, had also 6 walks and 4 stolen bases in 6 games. So she had a solid week.
You could say that. Maggie, you mentioned Mizzou wrestling. They beat number 3 Iowa State at the time. That was on their senior night. They beat them there. They finished. They're done with the regular season right now. They went 8-3, 7-1 in the Big 12. They do have the Big 12 tournament coming up on March 4th and 5th. So that's going to be interesting. I believe the last time Mizzou was in the Big 12 for wrestling, they won the Big 12.
Well, they won it last year. They won it last year.
Last year was
the first year. Okay, that's right.
And then 10 years ago, though, they won their last one as well.
That's right. That's what I was thinking. So Mizzou's got a streak to uphold, and they won the MAC every year they were entered, I believe. So like they haven't not won a conference championship in wrestling in a long time. So lots of big things for Mizzou athletics. But I just saw this.
That was all good news, and we're done. We don't have to talk about anything else.
Right, that's the podcast. Thank you.
Do the Costanza, leave them on a high note. That's all we got. We're out.
Shout out to Charlie Hustle. No, I did see this just came across the website here, Gabe. I don't know if you saw this. Tigers duo set to participate in USA Women's Volleyball National Team tryouts. So
I did not see that.
Yeah, I got breaking news to Gabe DeArmond here, live on the podcast. So we did start off on a very high note with all the good things that's happening in Mizzou athletics. Now we have to talk about something that's not going good in Mizzou athletics, and that is the men's basketball program, where they dropped a big one to Texas A&M, where it was a weird game. It was just a weird game. I don't know where we want to start in this game. I guess just where do you want to start?
Well, I think we could start in the first half when Missouri was 2 for 10 on layups and dunks.
Yeah.
At one point, Missouri was shooting 20%. A&M had 11 turnovers, and like they should have just called the game. So, because both teams should have been looking at it going, how are we not up 15 points in this game? But also, how are we not down 15 points in this game? And then A&M finally put together about 4 competent minutes of basketball at the end of the first half, and they were up, I don't know, 11 or 13 or something at half. But look, Missouri and A&M have now played 80 minutes, and Missouri has led for about 2 of them. It's okay to just say A&M's a better team, and A&M is a bad matchup for Missouri. Sometimes you run into those where they play in a very specific way that involves rebounding and free throws, and that hurt Missouri.
Yeah, we were out rebounded again, 41-23. So, I mean, it's just going to happen every single game.
Well, I went through and looked. They played 14 SEC games. They've been out rebounded in 13 of them. They've been out rebounded by at least 8 in 11 of them. They have not out rebounded the opponents once. And I understand losing the rebounding battle because they're small. You get it. They're going to lose the rebounding battle. But guys, I'm just blown away by the number of times they're actually kind of there and the ball comes off and they just don't grab it. Like they have a really hard time just grabbing the basketball. And this could be my imagination, but it seems to me that this team loses a whole lot of like 50-50 balls. And I don't know why that. I don't know if it's just bad luck or what, but A&M seemed to get, once the ball bounced off Missouri's hands for a rebound, A&M seemed to get every one of them on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of standing around watching when shots go up. Nobody's really putting a body on anyone. I mean, if you watch it closely, I mean, it's basketball 101. You know, find a guy. It doesn't even matter if it's your guy. You find a guy, you box him out.
Hopefully in the other uniform.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, who knows? That might not be happening. I don't know. But yeah, it's just not going to happen. We're too far gone. It's something that you can't really even teach this late. You just have to find other ways to win. And shooting the way that they shot is not going to put us in the win column.
It also seemed a little bit weird to me. I hadn't noticed this before. I'm sure they've been doing it all year. But when Missouri is shooting free throws, Mo Diarra was in the backcourt, while like Nick Honor and Dre Golston were in the lane for the rebounds. And for a team that, I mean, that almost just seems to me like hey, we ain't going to get this anyway, so we'll put the big guy back in the backcourt to play defense, which maybe that makes some sense. It just kind of struck me as, for a team that has so much trouble rebounding, for Kobe and Diarra not to be on the line, to go after a free throw seemed really weird.
It's very odd. Again, that talks about my strategy last week of maybe Dennis is saying, big brain, don't rebound. Maybe that's what it is. Just don't rebound. But no, Gabe, you mentioned it off the top. Missouri forced Texas A&M to 12 turnovers in 12 minutes. That's a turnover a minute for those keeping track at home. That is an incredible clip. If you're Texas A&M, that has to be incredibly frustrating. But then on the other end of that, I think Mizzou was 3 for the first 18. And that's also incredibly frustrating from the Missouri side of the ball. It seems like we talk about this a lot too. Especially Alabama game, they're really good at going on runs at the end of the first half and starting the second half. Texas A&M went on a run at the end of the first half. 15-4 is what I believe it was. Yeah, 15-4 before the half. And that kind of put Missouri behind the 8 ball even further if their shooting weren't already. And then they came out in the second half and shot, I believe it was 52% in the second half. But like even that couldn't help a 15-4 run just before the half.
They never really made it interesting in the second half. You know, they had a couple times where they got back to 8 and you kind of thought maybe this is it. But then once there was a shot clock violation, Golston and Kobe just didn't know how much time there was left. Then I think the next time down, like Golston got a steal and tried a half-court outlet pass to Diarra, and that got stolen. And then it was, I mean, it never got to the point where you really felt like, oh, they actually have a chance to win this game.
Yeah, I agree. It didn't feel competitive, honestly, from the get-go, even though it was, because neither team were making any shots. It just never felt like we had any command on that game.
Yeah. 18-point lead at one point before Missouri really started to inch any closer. You guys are right. It didn't really feel like Mizzou was ever, and that's tough because this was a game Mizzou kind of needed to win, especially at home against Texas A&M. It was a big one, and it's one of those that now Mississippi State becomes a much bigger of a game than what it could have been.
Well, it was more competitive than the last time they played, so that was, I mean,
that is fair.
But here's the other thing, A&M, and we talked a little bit about this last week, and we fall into this way too much, and I did it with this A&M team. We fall into, well, Missouri should beat A&M because it's basketball. Missouri's bad. This is a good A&M team.
Yeah.
They're 12-2 in this league. They're going to have a shot maybe to play Bama in the last game of the regular season to win the SEC. And I know they lost to Wofford and they got blown out by Colorado, but Buzz Williams coaches his ass off, and that's a good team. And the irony is, by losing that game, Texas A&M actually moved up to number 29 in the net, which means that Missouri still does not have a loss outside of the Like they're 4-8 in quad one games and 15-0 against everybody else. So, you know, had Missouri won that game, they'd be like 33, and it would be not a quad one win, but it is a quad one loss, at least for now. I don't think it was one they had to win. It would have been one that was very nice to win, because that would have been, you know, you would have said, okay, we're done talking. Like, they are in the tournament, right? We're done. We don't have to worry about this. Almost nothing can happen. So it was just a chance to drive that final nail in the coffin, and they missed that chance, but they have another chance. Like, I don't think it kills you to have lost that game, but it would have been really nice to win that game. The shame of it now is you've got 4 games where I think they have a lot more downside than upside.
100%. And I was just peeking over at the bracketology there. Their next game is coming against Joe Lunardi's first team out in Mississippi State. So Mississippi State has Missouri's number, to say the least, and when it comes to basketball. So that's going to be an interesting one. Luckily, that game is at home. So that's a plus if you're looking at that silver lining. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting stretch here for the Tigers.
Well, Mississippi State is like Texas A&M light.
Yeah,
they do what Texas A&M does. They just don't do it as well. You know, I mean, this is a game where, again, Missouri can make they can lose this game and make the turn. But I think to go to the SEC tournament not worrying about anything and knowing they're in, they need 3 wins in the last 4. And it would be a lot easier if you win this one, so you're not putting yourself in a position of going to Georgia putting all the pressure in the world on yourself, kind of knowing you have to win.
Yeah.
And Tolo Smith's no joke either. Yeah. I think he scored 24 or 25 against us in the first game. He's averaging somewhere around 15 to 16 points a game. So, I mean, he's no joke. He's a good player. So it's gonna be a tough matchup for us. Well, especially if we're not making shots.
I think Missouri's problem right now is kind of that what you do at that other forward spot. Because, you know, Kobe is the guy, and he played really well against A&M. But Diarra is still pretty limited in what he can give you. And they just haven't gotten much of anything out of Noah Carter in about 5 weeks, to be quite honest with you. And so it's weird to say, but man, this team could use Ronnie DeGray being healthy. Like, because they've got guys that can score, but DeGray has a little athleticism. He can rebound. He plays defense, and I feel like he'd be playing a decent number of minutes right now if he was healthy.
Let's talk about some personnel things. I guess this is the part of the podcast where we get to talk about who's on the court and who's not on the court. What I have written down on my sheet here is, where in the world is Isaiah Mosley? I looked at the stats that, when you click on his profile on the MUTigers.com, you can go to it, because I was like, when did he play last? MU Tigers has
at Mississippi State.
February 4th versus Mississippi State. And that was a lot longer than I thought it was, to be honest, but also it felt like it was also a lot shorter than it was at the same time. Gabe, give us the secret. What's going on with Isaiah Mosley?
Can you do the voice effect where, like, it seems like I'm talking, but I just cut out for a few seconds, and so it's like I said something, but I didn't? No. So, look, the answer to that is we don't know. We're not going to know. He's not going to tell us, guys. We can ask any number of ways. Like somebody on our board said, it is time for you to demand answers, and I said, should I do that by pounding the table or by calling a name or yelling? Like, it's not going to change what he says. So you guys tell me if this accurately describes things. Sometime early in the second half on Saturday night, I texted some of my friends. I said, tonight's the night where people are going to go from curious and irritated about the Mosley situation to pissed off about the Mosley situation. That happened in my Twitter mentions and on the message board. I don't know if that accurately reflects what you guys think, what Missouri fans at large think, but that's what it felt like to me.
I think it's fair. Honestly, I think it's fair. We know that Mosley was also paid NIL to come here, like, to play I don't know what those deals were or anything like that, but he's at Mizzou for a reason. I'm sure part of it is to be close to home, of course, but he could have been close to home in other places, and he chose to come to Mizzou. So I understand the frustration. I don't know if it's worth like letting everybody's lives be ruined, or like feel like their lives are ruined because of it. But
I would like to say, if you feel like your life is ruined by this, like, you got to get some other things going. But no offense, but you got to get some other things going.
Go outside. Go for a walk.
You know, there's some people on your board whose lives are ruined every day by Mizzou sport.
I hope not. I really do.
It's sad.
But like, I mean, I do get why people are irritated. And look, I said, like, I don't think it's been handled well. I think it's a disservice to the kid. But if this is the way the kid wants it handled, then so be it. Because I don't know what the reason is. The frustrating part is that when he came back and started playing, whenever that was, the second Arkansas game, maybe January 18th, I think. When he came back and he played 3 or 4 games in a row, and it kind of felt like, oh, okay, this is done. Like, we're over this. Everything's okay now. And then when it started again, like, I'm less concerned about why he hasn't played or that he hasn't played. Then I think this is now at the point where if he doesn't play tomorrow night against Mississippi State, I think you have to be done for the season. And here's what. Because 5 years ago, I like to refer to this as my least favorite time to cover Mizzou athletics ever, when we had people tweeting pictures of the cushion that Michael Porter Jr. sat on during games, and we were like, is he in the building? Is he raising canes? Well, we didn't have a raising canes, but you get the where it was like, hey, there's an NCAA tournament season going on, and we can't talk about it at all. And this isn't to that level, but my point is, Mike came back for the SEC tournament and the NCAA tournament, and there is no disputing Missouri was a worse team with him on the floor than it was with him off the floor. And it wasn't really his fault. It was just, look, when he says he can play, you have to play him.
Mm-hmm.
But you're doing it in postseason basketball, and these kids haven't played with him at all, and he took like 17 shots against Georgia, and the whole thing just looked out of whack. Like, It didn't work with him in the lineup. And if he had come back 2 weeks earlier, maybe you work those kinks out and it does work by the postseason. My point is, you cannot go to the SEC tournament in Nashville and all of a sudden Isaiah Mosley is a part of this again. Because I just think it'll make you worse. So if it doesn't happen tomorrow night or at the latest this weekend at Georgia, I think you just have to kind of resign yourself to the fact that, yeah, there was a lot of excitement, but he's not a part of this going forward.
Yeah. Gabe, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this too. I've seen some mixed things on Twitter, some mixed people who want to put the blame on either if it's Dennis or if it's Isaiah. Like, some people have been saying, oh, Dennis doesn't want to play him, but
Dennis has said Isaiah wants to play. I am making a decision for the betterment, or for, I don't know exactly the words, but basically I'm making the decision as the coach. He said Isaiah wants to play. He said it's not disciplinary. So, I mean, if you want to be, I think mad is the wrong word, but I do get why people are irritated by it. Yeah. But that, whatever emotion it is, direct it toward the coach. I mean, he's telling you, this is my decision. So I haven't seen anybody really berating the kid. I've seen some people yelling at me and Dave Matter. It's not our fault. We've not decided not to play.
Whatever game.
But if you have anger at this situation, I think it's, I don't know, be mad at Gates. And I think Gates would say, yeah, that's cool. Be mad at me, whatever.
Isaiah has eligibility left, right?
Oh, yeah, he could come back next year.
Just next year?
Yeah.
Is it just one? Okay,
yeah, just one.
Even with the COVID year? Next year would be the COVID year?
Next year would be his COVID year. He has already played 3. This is 4.
4, okay.
That seems unlikely, but
yeah,
I don't know.
How do how do red shirts work in basketball? Is there like a game?
You see the court, it's gone. You play a minute, you do not redshirt.
Wild. That's interesting. Okay. I'm just so used to the football redshirt of like, oh yeah, you can play 4 games now and you're fine. You can even play the bowl game now and you're fine. Yeah, you can really play.
Also, the redshirting is so unusual in basketball.
It is.
Because if you're going to spend 5 years at a high major program, like
rosters are also really.
Should you have a scholarship there?
Right. I think it's interesting too because I think a lot of people can look at the surface level of it and say, okay, when Isaiah Mosley was playing, Missouri was arguably playing their best ball. So now Isaiah Mosley's not playing. I think one could inference that because Isaiah Mosley's not playing, Missouri is struggling right now. I don't know if that's necessarily fair, but I've definitely seen that inference out there.
They beat Illinois without him. They beat Kentucky without him.
They did do that.
It does make them a deeper team. I mean, obviously, the more good players you have, your odds for winning can go up. It's just science. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure it makes them a little bit better, but I see what Gabe's saying about kind of the chemistry of a team and how somebody who's used to being the type of player that Isaiah Mosley is, the type of player that Michael Porter Jr. was, whatever you want to say. I mean, it does throw a wrench in chemistry, 1,000,000%.
And let's be real clear here, and I don't mean any disrespect to Isaiah Mosley by saying this. He is not Michael Porter Jr.
Oh, no.
I mean, 99.8% of the basketball players walking the earth are not Michael Porter Jr.
Right, for sure.
You know.
But just people that shoot, like guys that shoot a lot. Like Mosley's, he spent his time at Missouri State scoring a lot of points. This is just what he did. He's not a Nick Honor type player where it's all about assists. He was a point scorer.
Yeah. I also feel like we've fallen into this trap here for the last 20 minutes. This sucks, and they lost the last game. But this team won at Tennessee 9 days.
Yeah, that's true.
They're still in the NCAA tournament. Like, now it will be disappointing if they miss the tournament, no question. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be disappointed, but on October 1st, had I told you Missouri can be 19-8, they're going to be 7-7, they're going to have 4 games left against teams below them in the SEC standings. And if they win those 4 games, they're probably in the top 4 in the league, and they're definitely in the NCAA tournament, probably favored to win a game. Like every single Missouri fan out there would have said, fast forward to February 20th and give me that. I'm good. Yeah, and that's where we are.
They'd say extend Dennis Gates. That's what they said. No, he already has a contract.
Now, 9 days ago, we were trying to get this dude a Brinks truck in his driveway for life.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy how fickle, not necessarily, not just Missouri fans, but just like the whole college basketball scape is just so fickle of just like, what have you done for me 15 minutes ago? And if you haven't won a game in 15 minutes, you're dead to me. And it's interesting.
Did you guys see what Auburn did after blowing Missouri out? They lost to Vanderbilt. I mean, this is the sport. Outside of 12 teams, everybody go lose 8, 9, 10 times.
That's the best thing about March Madness, though, is that you just never know what's going to happen. That's why March Madness is the greatest tournament there is. Because there's endless opportunity. And with those, like you were saying, those final 4 games that we have, we hold our own fate. Like we control it.
Yep.
All we have to do is win.
They have a tiebreaker over Tennessee, a tiebreaker over Kentucky, which also then gives them a lot of advantages in like multi-team tiebreakers. Because if you're tied with 3 or 4 teams, a lot of times it'll get down to, okay, what was your record against the first place team, then the second place team, then Missouri has beaten the teams that are 3rd, 4th, and 5th right now. So if they go 4-0, I think there's a better than 50-50 chance they finish in the top 4 in this league.
That would be quite a first year for Dennis Gates. I don't think that anybody would dispute that. It'd be a great year, especially gonna end up make his own roster as he went, right? It's like he came and he only had 3 guys on the roster, had to bring in a bunch of different guys. So I think that that's huge. Talking about those games, Mississippi State obviously on Tuesday, Georgia on Saturday, LSU next Wednesday, March the 1st, Ole Miss on March the 4th. That is a Saturday to wrap up SEC play, or just regular season play in general. That'll be at Mizzou Arena at 2:30 on that time. But other Mizzou, the Mississippi State game will be at Mizzou Arena as well at 6 p.m. So those are the games coming up here with the SEC tournament right around the corner. Seems like it's crazy that it's already almost March when you look at it, and when this feels like this year started like 35 minutes ago when we started this podcast. This year started, but that's what it feels like. But looking at the bracketology, gotta go there. My guy Joe, he's got him as Missouri as an 8 seed. I don't know if you've seen this game.
He hasn't updated it since Friday morning.
He hasn't. That's fair, but don't let that get in the way of what I'm about to say.
Okay, I'm gonna shoot it down as soon as you say it.
I know you are.
We know what you're gonna say.
Missouri, the 8 seed, playing number 9 Duke. What a win that would be for the program, by the way. But if they do win that game, they would play number 1 Kansas.
They're not going to play Kansas in the NCAA tournament. They're just not. I mean, the committee is not going to say, Kansas, you're going to Des Moines. Here's your reward. In round 2, you might get a team that's only 5 hours from campus, and everybody that's ever gone to that school will show up to try to get a ticket to that game. I mean, it's not what you do. If Missouri is an 8-9, they are going to either be in Purdue or Houston's bracket. I'm assuming the other 2 1 seeds are Kansas and Alabama.
Yeah.
Also, you do not want to be in Purdue's bracket.
No.
Purdue would not.
Zach Edey would do this alive.
I'm not sure you want to be in Houston's. But realistically, if you're an 8-9 seed, there's almost no scenario where you're going, well, here's who I want in round 2. No, you're going, I just want to get to round 2.
I think Purdue might actually be the absolute worst matchup Mizzou could ever face. Just the way that team is built and everything. Oh my gosh.
Kobe would have 3 fouls in the first 7 minutes.
I would start Mabor Majak in that game.
Oh yeah.
Like I would legitimately start him and just go, I don't know, man. As long as you can go.
Yep.
It'd be bad.
But look, the goal is, and I get it, you want to go as far as you can. But there's step 1, get it. Step 2, if you can win 1, like this is a huge year for this program.
Yeah.
If you could win an NCAA tournament game in his first year, because there is nobody that realistically would have said that they thought that was happening on November 1st.
That I think even an 8 seed would be a huge accomplishment. When you talk about when I said that this was the best mid-major team in the SEC, I didn't expect them to have an 8 seed at that point. I don't know if I expected them to make the tournament necessarily. Speaking from a personal perspective, I think even if we talked about this on the previous podcast, but if you would have started the season and you say, hey, they'd be an 8 seed in the tournament, I think I would have been like, oh, wow, that's a pretty good year.
I'm starting to think, barring a run in the SEC tournament, the best thing that could happen to Missouri is to somehow get a 10 seed.
Yeah, we want a 10 or a 7, I would say. I'd rather stay off that 8 or 9 line for sure.
Yeah.
I also, like, our basketball guy talked to some of the bracketology guys last week and wrote an article about this, but it's a team that, like, opinions are all over the board because it just depends on what you look at. So, one of the guys, I think it was Jerry Palm, said, look, what you're trying to do is predict the actions of a 12-person committee, and we can't do that. So we're just looking at information. This is what we value, but we don't know what they value. So, like, maybe this is all dumb, and these guys, the committee's going to look at it and go, look how many teams Missouri has beaten that are already in this field. And they haven't lost anybody bad. This is a 6 seed, right? So, or maybe they're going to look at it the way the Net and Ken Palm seem to look at it and go, hey, this is a 10 seed. I mean, we have no idea. It's somewhere in that range. But I think to even try to guess right now is so hard because this team has just been so, it's so, usually the analytics, I feel like you go, well, yeah, I see why they're there. I look at some of the metrics on Missouri and I say, I don't get why they're there and Illinois is here and Arkansas is here. If it's because they only beat SEMO by 6, like that's dumb. Then the analytics don't make sense to me.
Well, you see a lot of other teams that only beat bad teams by not very many points. And so it gets a little confusing on where it lies, because part of me thinks that the name on the front of the jersey matters a little bit more than...
Actually, I think I do. I do kind of know why it is too, and somebody posted this on our message board. Out of 76 like high major teams, Missouri has the 71st defense. And the 5 teams below them are all going to lose 20 games.
Yeah.
So I think they're looking at it and going, okay, they're great. They're a great half team, but they're so bad on this other side that like it doesn't just average out. You know, it leans more toward they're so bad on this side of the ball that the metrics penalize them for it. And honestly, I think that's kind of fair because I think they're pretty bad on
defense is not good. Not good. Yeah. Hopefully we can see some good defense down the stretch here with these 4 games remaining. Any final thoughts, Gabe, before we wrap this thing up?
I think I just saw that the Oakland A's have signed Sam Horn as an unrestricted free agent. So it's been fun, Sam. Appreciate you being here. It was a great night at Globe Life Field.
Well, I needed Maggie.
Just in case that they didn't. Just in case.
Not a color that was a joke. That was a joke. They did not do that.
No, I don't have too much. If you're in Columbia, try to go to the game tomorrow. Home court advantage, as we know, plays a huge deal. So, yeah, hopefully they can get back in the win column, and our other teams that we talked about at the beginning of the podcast will keep rolling.
Absolutely. Big seasons for the Missouri Athletics coming up. And wrapping up all at the same time. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Mizzou That's You. Shout out to Charlie Hustle. I got my new Monarch shirt on. I teased it last week. This is the new one with all of the titles around it. They won a lot, guys. They won a lot of titles. Very cool. Make sure to go check those out if you are into. If you haven't been to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, go to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum first, and then buy some of the new line. They have more than just Monarchs too. They got, I think, the Grays. They've got a whole Negro League line out there. So go check it out. That's going to do it for this week's episode. We'll be back next week after a couple of basketball games to talk a little bit more, and I'm sure that there will be more stuff for us to talk about. Football's got to make news at some point. They're being too quiet. Practically quiet.
Spring practice starts next Tuesday, so
there we go. We'll preview position by position breakdown on next week's episode.
Gabe and Tucker will be doing that for you.
Just me.
I'll be napping. No, I'll be napping.
You guys will be asleep on the screen as I am just talking about the 4th string offensive tackles. So I'm sure you guys will be excited for that. Make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode, and subscribe to us on YouTube at KCSNU. Appreciate you listening all the way in. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, the fastest growing sports media network in Kansas City. Check out these videos that feature our team of more than 15 former players, insiders, and analysts bringing you the best Chiefs coverage you can find. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.